Afternoon, everyone. I feel a little silly using a microphone because of the venue and the small group, but we are recording this and it's going to be in a webinar that we're going to have on our website and the library's website. So welcome to our first of many April Wellness series that the Waunakee Community Cares Coalition puts out every year. A little bit about Waunakee Community Cares Coalition. We are an organization that started in 2014 and around prevention, alcohol and drug prevention in our community, as well as mental health. And most recently, 3 years ago, we acquired the Drug-Free Community Grant, which is a substantial grant, a multi-million-dollar grant, actually, for up to 10 years that we now can do lots of programming in our community. And they were able to hire someone full-time like myself, and Maddie Zaleski, who's back there, is our communications specialist. And we have made it a priority to work with community, work with our schools to make sure that we are addressing the challenges that we have with alcohol and drug prevention as well as mental health. So we have a panel of amazing speakers. They're actually all members of our coalition and are doing great work in our community. How we set this up for our panel discussions, we'll have each of them be delivering basically an update about what they're seeing in their spaces around that topic. Roger Bartels is here in place of Mitch Flora from the school. He was unable now to be here, but Roger is fantastic. He will give you the update from our community. And then we have Ryan Sheahan, who is from Public Health, Dane County, Madison, and he's going to give us some updates about alcohol policy and so forth and in our community. And then we have Alyson Schaefer, who's a retired teacher from Waunakee School District, who's going to be also talking a little bit more in trends with sex trafficking as well as mental health. So without further ado, I am going to bring up Roger. He will begin our program and I'll just hand this off to you. So welcome.
Thank you. Welcome all. I'm not a great public speaker, so the microphone in hand and this in hand, we'll see how I do. So Mitch Flora is our school resource officer. He put together this slideshow in conjunction with one of the educators at the high school. So I'll kind of go through it and then we'll have a little time at the end for questions. So I was asked to put together a presentation, which I forwarded to him, about just trends in the school and in the community. So this is a little bit, it's kind of more geared towards the school, but we do touch on some community issues that we're seeing as well. So again, I'm Roger Bartels. I've been with the Waunakee PD for almost 24 years now. So the first slide here, these are actual photographs from Officer Flora, just from this school year, and it's not all of them, but these are just samples of vapes that he's acquired throughout the year from students. It's obviously the biggest concern at the high school. They're doing some creative things to, I guess, apprehend or catch more students that are doing this because of all the issues in the community that this is causing with addiction, mental health, and everything. So again, this is just a sample. They come in many colors, shapes, sizes. He just took some random pictures and shared them with us. So the thing to know about vapes is anything that's in liquid form can be vape. The most common is nicotine and THC, but we've seen alcohol, CBD, again, anything in a liquid can be inhaled through the vape. CBD oil, it's pretty common. We hear about it on the news. We hear about it advertised in shops. It's kind of an illegal gray area. Technically, nothing is done enforcement-wise. It's sold. But again, it's in that gray area because there can be some THC detected in that oil. I'm not going to go into some big political debate about it, but technically it is probably illegal if it tests positive for THC. We don't see a lot of that in the school. Another thing he added, it's not regulated by the FDA, so therefore the school's not allowed to administer it or allow it on school grounds anyway. So these are some different forms of vapes. This is what they use to smoke what's called wax or dabs, hash oil. Again, they're an electronic cigarette that takes a wax, converts it to a liquid. They inhale it to get the high from the THC. Delta 8, that's another one like CBD. You're seeing that in stores and shops too that's being sold. It's also in that gray area. Delta 9 is the illegal form of THC. The Delta 8 gives you the same effect, but it doesn't contain the illegal substance of the Delta 9. So that's where the controversy lies with this. We have seen some of this at the high school as well. These are some stats that he pulled from school staff. Last school year, he or we responded to 12 related drug incidents at the high school and 4 tobacco incidents. So far this year, through the end of March, we've had 13 related drug incidents and 16 tobacco. So definitely on the rise. That's the reason we're here, educating. The good news, I guess, 0 alcohol incidents both years, so that's a positive. These are stats the school keeps, and these are incidents that happen, not only drug and tobacco related, but it could be a fight or disturbance, but it kind of helps show where they're taking place. Last year, a lot of incidents in the classroom. This year, the big thing is the bathroom, and the school is taking some proactive approaches to try to prevent the vaping in the bathroom. So that's why we feel that has increased dramatically. So this is what happens when a student gets caught with a vape at school. Again, Officer Flora would be able to go into more detail on this, but basically it's a conversation between school administration that get the parents involved. Then there's obviously the school, suspension, detention, out of school, in school. I don't know how they decide which way to go on that, but that's the consequences. If you're student athletes, there'd be a code violation. And then they're given resources and they can follow up with a school social worker if they have addiction issues or mental health issues that are driving this. And I know Alyson will cover a lot more of that when we get to her presentation. And then of course, our job, if there's a ticket that has to be involved, we would issue a municipal ticket for the possession of nicotine or THC. So now trending to the community. My biggest concern is, and everyone's, is the counterfeit pills that we're seeing. It's huge. We just had a traffic stop 2 weeks ago where 95 counterfeit, we call them M30 pills, which are the blue. I'll show you another slide later, but so we had 95 of them on one traffic stop. So they're very prevalent. The scary thing is they're made to look like prescription oxycodone. So if you go to Walgreens and get a prescription for oxycodone, that's what they look like. These are homemade pills that are being made in basements and apartments and Mexican drug cartel. And they're putting fentanyl in them to give you that opiate effect, but it's not controlled. It's made in a basement and you don't know how much fentanyl you're getting when you ingest that pill. So that's why we're seeing the overdoses. This picture on the right is from one traffic stop last year, I believe, in Waunakee. So we have marijuana, the blue M30 pills. I don't know what the yellow ones are. We had some ecstasy. So it's here. Some stats number-wise. Drug investigations. This is the total for the Waunakee Police Department. In 2021, we had 49 drug investigations. In 2022, we had 73. This year, we're on pace for 136. So it's ever increasing. These are overdoses. I don't know where he pulled this data. I don't know if they're deaths or just overdoses you responded to, but 2019, we had 2, 2020, we had 5, 2011, 2022, we had 11. And this year, I think this number should be 16. So we had 4 through the end of March. So not a good year. And this is the counterfeit pills I was talking about. As you can see on this slide, this is the top pill that you would get at Walgreens, which is oxycodone. This is the pill that the kids in our community is buying on the black market. They look exactly the same. The difference is it's going to contain fentanyl. Then over here, this is an example of how much fentanyl it would take to kill you on an overdose. So it's not very much. I don't think we've seen any carfentanil, but that's just a stronger dose of fentanyl. So that would be the amount that would kill you or potentially kill you. So the other two are just other examples of common pills that are counterfeited, including Xanax. These are the resources I think that are provided by the school and us, if you would call the police department. We have Briarpatch Youth Services. A lot of our homeless or runaway teens, we will take there. They sit down with counselors, they help them through their problems. Dane County has a behavioral mental health center. We contact them as well. Department of Human Services. So we have resources in play. It depends what the youth situation is, where we would refer them. But I think the school does a good job, hopefully pointing the kids in the right direction for help. That is the end of my slideshow. So is there any questions for the police department aspect to this? And when I'm done, I'll turn it over to Ryan. So Delta 8, it's considered legal. There's no enforcement action taken on it. It's considered legal because it doesn't include the Delta 9 variant, which is the illegal part per state statute. It has the same effect on your body in the mental state, but they found a loophole kind of in the Wisconsin THC law. It's not currently illegal for anyone. No, they don't want it at the school, obviously, but the problem is if we find someone with it, we can't take enforcement action legally on it right now because it's in that real weird gray area that it's not going to contain Delta 9. So therefore they're possessing it and able to buy it at a local smoke shop and gas station. And so, yes. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. We would not give them a ticket for it the way I understand it. They would probably have school consequences, but not legal consequences is the way I understand it. Nicotine is correct. 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 Yep. Yep. And I don't know what the school does if they find Delta 8 there, but I know we can't cite them. So sure. Well, nicotine, yes, we would cite because I think you have to be 21 now to possess nicotine. So. Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, it's a, correct. Mr. Kirsten shaking his head. No, I don't know. Okay. 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 I can't speak to that, but I can. I don't know how it's set up, so I'm sorry I can't answer that, but please do. Right. Yeah. Do you have a question? This one? Oh, that one? Oh, well, that's back further, wasn't it? No? Oh, there it is on the right side. Sorry. And I think the 4 was through March, the end of March. So times 4 probably should be on pace for 16, but yeah. And I don't think they're fatal overdoses. I think they're just overdoses. I can't say that for certain stuff. Anyone else? Yeah. Yep. Correct. Correct. And again, whether they have to change legislature to make that illegal or do something, but if they possess Delta 8 and it's not labeled Delta 8 and we test it and it tests positive for THC, then we would still issue a citation for possession of THC. But it's just it's a weird gray area that hopefully the legislature addresses in the very near future. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks, Roger. Only because we have lots to go get through. And I will follow up with that too, that part of the coalition, what we're doing is working on legislation and we're working with the schools on what will be consequences, what will be things that we can help students with. So if there's ever questions too, definitely contact us and I can let you know some of the things that we're doing on a state level because it is a huge issue. So that we all need to be thinking about and working together on. So, all right, now we have Ryan Sheahan.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Sheahan, Public Health, Madison and Dane County. I've been a staff there for 21 years. For the first 20 years, I staffed our tobacco prevention and control program. So a lot of also knowledge on our vaping products and kind of our school policies and things like that. But last year, Public Health, I need another clicker, actually. Public Health tasked me with studying and planning an alcohol harm reduction and policy program at Public Health. And so alcohol is obviously an issue in the country, in Wisconsin, locally. We have outside influences, a lot of money into alcohol. Obviously, it's a social norm in Wisconsin and locally. And so what can we do to try to reduce the burden of alcohol in Wisconsin and here locally in Waunakee, our area? So there's many programs and policies that are options out there. The state of Wisconsin has a state, it's called the State Council on Alcohol and Other Drug Abuse, or aoda. And it's like a 20-page report that came out with, I'd say, a few years ago, and there's like 60 options on there to help reduce the burden of alcohol. And so, where do I start for a brand new program on alcohol here in Dane County? So one program that was already in place was called the Place of Last Drink. I'm going to cover some stats first on alcohol, just so we can kind of see what that burden is, though. So I had this in different colors, and when it was transferred, it's really hard to see here. So just know that as the years go on, we've increased our deaths due to alcohol. That can be from acute, such as alcohol poisoning and falls, to chronic, such as liver cirrhosis and things like that. Alcohol impacts, we see automobile accidents and car and deaths because of drinking and driving as well. So about 3,103 residents of Wisconsin die in 2020. That's about the size of Lodi, Wisconsin. We don't have data for 21, 22 yet. It will be interesting to see some of that data over our COVID years. So when we get that, we'll update that. So hope I can be back next year and kind of share where we're at with that. This is our binge drinking by county in 2021. And if you take a look at Wisconsin, it's in dark blue. Every county in Wisconsin is in dark blue. Binge drinking is defined as 4 drinks for a female in one sitting and 5 drinks for a male in one sitting. So every county is above the national average here in Wisconsin. So it's obviously a social norm here, including Waunakee. What are some of the costs of alcohol use and misuse? So we have lost productivity. So if you're out of work, you're hungover, things like that, you can't make it to work, you can't go to, if you're a student in college, you can't, go to your classes, be productive. It costs our criminal justice system $560 million a year. Our healthcare system, it's a big burden, $380 million. And going to the hospital for all those diseases, like I said, our chronic diseases, our acute diseases, our crashes, and other, I'm not sure what's in that category. I can find that out, but on a per capita basis, $666 per resident. The cost to help combat alcohol. The cost of the government is $1.6 billion, and we receive $60.9 million in alcohol tax revenue. I think we have the lowest 6-packs and a barrel of beer tax in the nation. So it's a very strong lobby in the state. So as I was saying, our binge drinking impacts is responsible for about 3/4 of the excessive alcohol consumption for economic costs. So I'm not going to read every number off here. You can kind of read this on your own as I come through here, but alcohol has a big impact in the state of Wisconsin. Lots of arrests here for underage or under the influence. That is, I believe, 2020. It's the same data set that I had in the beginning. Yep. Yep. And if it's not, I'll get back to you, Roberta. All right. So as I was saying, this state council put together like 60 options, for what communities can do to reduce the burden of alcohol on their communities. So I have it over there. If anybody wants to take a look at it and read through some options, it's a lot of stuff on policy, but they break it down by sections. So what can local governments do? What can state government do? What can local communities do? Civic, school systems, religious organizations. What can healthcare systems do? And the alcohol industry, actually. So they have some suggestions for the alcohol industry. And that was December of 2021. So I took over this program about a year ago, or I started the program about a year ago. And there was no program in place here in Dane County. This was at public health. So one program that was already in place was called Place of Last Drink. And Place of Last Drink was originally housed at the University of Wisconsin Law School by Julia Sherman. She started this program for all of Wisconsin. That was her goal. And so she ran it here in Dane County. And what it is when someone is stopped for a DUI or any other alcohol-related incident, we ask that the officers ask, where did you get your last drink? All right, so the reason for that is to find out if there are any trends in our community for over-serving. Is it having too many house parties? Where are they having their last drink and then driving on the road from? So, when we collect that information, we ask the officers, and Roger's been a big support here in Waunakee, helping to survey his officers to encourage them to try to ask that question more or be more specific on where they are coming from. And so, what if we could use that to help prevent over-serving? So obviously our businesses, we need business here in our community and in the state. We want our servers, though, to be educated on how not to over-serve or pour too much and recognize when someone's intoxicated. Obviously, it also falls on the individual to make good choices as well. We want to have a good partnership between businesses and the community and our individuals. So, so we can provide education. So if we know there's a trend in the community of someone, say, Joe's Bar is continually being recognized as someone who is the place of last drink, we can work with them to educate them on best practice on how to serve, how to train their servers, on how to recognize intoxication, educate our general public like we're doing here. So about what we can do in the community. Again, we can also identify problem locations or events that are happening. If we have a lot of festivals and they're being recognized in the summer as always over-serving, we want to be able to work with our businesses here and be good community partners and say, here are some best practice evidence-based strategies you can take to not over-serve, which will help reduce our accidents and drunk driving on the road. Looks like that went by itself, so that's great. So again, we want to have our officers asking to collect that information, where'd you get your last drink from, right? So it could be a hotel room, a vehicle, did not report some, someone who is stopped does not have to answer this question. So sometimes they're very vague and sometimes we want to ask them to be more specific on where they're coming from. So some might just say a hotel, some might say I was at a beach, some might say I came from my friend's house, but some might say I came from Joe's Bar or came from such and such festival. So Place of Last Drink has transferred over to the Medical College of Wisconsin. There's a statewide effort for Place of Last Drink, and so there's many police departments that are working in Wisconsin on this effort in conjunction with their health departments. And so we at Public Health decided to take over the program from the University of Wisconsin Law School as their staff left for to be, I think she retired, I think. So we took it over and are now working with Waunakee. We have a strong partnership with a consortium that has data from Sun Prairie, Fitchburg, Verona. Currently working with the Madison Police Department to try to gather their data. It's a very large police department, so there's some more steps to go through to get that data out of Madison, and we also work with our Dane County Sheriff's Office. So here's our data for Waunakee that Roger was graciously able to give us recently. So there were 18 stops in just the last 6 months of 2022 here in Waunakee for drinking while intoxicated. 6 of those actually named a license holder. 6 refused or said unknown. They didn't know. And then 6 said a more generic answer. I was at a friend's house. I was at work, at a bar. And so, and the average of blood alcohol content or breath alcohol content was 0.17 or double the limit. So we know, we want to track that because we want to know how much they're being overserved, right? So, and so working with Roger, he's encouraging his officers to, if they get an answer that's more generic or unknown, to encourage their officers to ask that question. Can you be more specific? Where did you have your last drink? And so there were no trends that we found here in Waunakee, which is great. So I can't recall which ones license holders of the actual license holders that were named. I have the data set back at the office, but there were no trends, and so that's a good thing. But this is the first step here. This is my first presentation on the place of last drink here in Dane County, and so my goal is to work with other police departments to do this same thing, to work with other officers and communities to educate them about this effort, and then we want to keep our streets as safe as possible from drunken driving and DUIs. So what happens if we identify someone multiple times though? So if there is someone that has a pattern, we want to work with those businesses. We want to, set up a meeting to say, hey, you've been identified a few times here as someone that's overserved. We understand it's also on the individual, but as a business and a good partner in our community, we want you to work with us, and we have some great suggestions on how to train your servers and how, let's say you're having a, I don't know, whatever kind of music night, from 6 till 9 p.m. and you're offering half price drinks. Maybe there's some things we can do to not have, as much alcohol consumption, during those hours, so we're not seeing as many people on the road driving under the influence at that time. So, so our goal is to first educate. Obviously, we want to work with the businesses and educate them and encourage compliance. If we have to, we'll send a warning letter, and we'll work with Roger as well in the police departments. If they are not complying, eventually we want to, have maybe some surveillance, have an officer maybe going if we have to. That's not the goal of this program though. The goal is to educate first. And if someone's just like a repeat offender over and over for a year or two, we want to be able to have our village board or license committees to just know that, hey, this might be an issue that we're seeing, like this one place might be an issue, and maybe we need to be considered, that license or have a pause in that to make sure they're complying a little better. So, and then I guess the last step would be some more sanctions, like I said. So, but our goal is to educate, and I haven't seen anything else other than education here in this area on pulled with this program in its time here in Dane County. So it's mostly an education program. That's our goal. So, thanks to Wisconsin Alcohol Policy Project, and then now houses in the POLD program, and my contact information. So, yes. No, this is all ages. It's not underage. Yeah. So this is anyone who gets stopped for a DUI. Correct. Yep.
I just was wondering if this
And
was,
this here, right here.
if this included, let's say, high schoolers.
It could include high schoolers. Yeah. This is all stops. Yeah. Yes.
And then if anyone, I guess, is stopped, what if you don't say where you had your last drink? Are you like reprimanded or something?
Nope.
Okay.
You're not. So we just encourage them to I mean, obviously someone is going to be nervous or whatever when they're up getting stopped for a DUI. They don't have to answer that question. Once they read Miranda rights, they don't have to answer anything, right? So we're just encouraging our officers to say, hey, where'd you get your last drink from?
Okay.
Yep. Anything else you want to add, Roger, from that? I mean, Mhm. So that's one program of, like I said, like 60 options in this whole report that the state gives us. And so there's other things that we're looking at doing. I know the state of Wisconsin and here in Dane County, we do not, at least in the city of Madison, which I'm trying to work with, we do not do underage alcohol compliance checks. We do them here in Waunakee, and Roger, if he wants to add on that, which is great. We want to make sure our businesses are not selling to our minors. So there are some areas in Dane County that do not do underage alcohol compliance checks. So that's one program we want to begin in certain areas. We want to maybe potentially offer or expand our Safe Ride program. So there's a lot of businesses that do not belong to our Tavern League membership that may not have that option for Safe Ride. And so we want to be able to, at some point, maybe find some funding to offer Safe Ride as well. So, and then many other programs. So thank you for your time, and I'll hand off to Alyson. So.
Hi, you guys. I know Michelle introduced me and talked about how I'm a retired teacher. I'm 1 year in from teaching as a retiree, teaching at Waunakee High School. I taught Phy-Ed and health. So I loved it. It's awesome. And I thought, I got to keep going. I got to keep going. I can't stop educating. I feel very blessed. Thank you, Michelle, for letting me come up and share some of these things. I have to preface my talk. I'm going to dive into some things that are going to be uncomfortable. Everything that I talk about has to do with mental health. It has to do with education, awareness, and advocacy is going to equal our prevention and protection. You guys have taken the first step. You're here. You're raising awareness. That's educating yourself. Now, what are you going to do about it? There's things out there, and I love your questions. And Roger and Ryan are talking about education. Sorry, I keep going back and forth. Am I okay back there, Amy? Okay. Do something. Be a voice. Be heard. Because we're going the wrong direction with all of this stuff. And we need to get out there to prevent, and we want to protect our community and society. We have to arm ourselves with information. So I'm going to dive into human trafficking. What's that have to do with mental health? Well, human trafficking, pornography, drugs, mental health, they all intertwine. Those are my topics. Human trafficking involves force, fraud, coercion to obtain some type of label or commercial sex. Now, if you go down the rabbit hole of human trafficking, it will hurt. And there's so much more trafficking out there than just saying labor and sex. There's so much more. How are people, or who are the people that are trafficked? I wish I could say that trafficking discriminates and just goes to the vulnerable people. It doesn't. Anyone can be trafficked. These factors set people up and are more vulnerable to be trafficked. Now, I will relate it to Madison. I know Officer Torbeck had shared at one point in Waunakee, there's no exchange of money, but there's a type of trafficking going on here. This is not meant to scare you, but raise the awareness. Raise the awareness. And I'm going to share the signs so you know what's going on. So these factors increase potential victimization. A person with psychological, emotional vulnerability, economic hardships, lack of social safety net, they don't have that support. that some of us do. Natural disasters. Think about Hurricane Katrina. Those people, they lose their homes. They don't have food. They don't have belonging. Those are going to set them up for a potential trafficking situation. Not everybody. Political instability. We are so divided right now, and I'm not going to get into that. Just understanding that can actually add to the trafficking. Sporting events, Super Bowl, World Cup. The traffickers, they pray. They go to those and they look for people to be trafficked. I know police or law enforcement has cued into that, so they know. So they send more reinforcements, runaways and LGBTQIA plus individuals. So those are vulnerable, but keep this in mind. If they want a 61-year-old for involuntary domestic servitude, meaning the traffickers, they're gonna get me. If they wanna traffic me, if the demand's there, it's gonna happen. So what does force, fraud, coercion mean? These are umbrella terms. So force is more of a violent type act, acquiring someone through violence. So your classic pull up the van, throw the person in the van. But that doesn't happen a lot right now. But that is a situation of force. Fraud is lying. So they're going to lie to acquire their victim. So what they end up doing is, I'm going to give you an example. Julie goes and she applies for a modeling job. And she gets accepted and she's super excited and she's in the United States. And they're like, hey, Julie, we're going to take you to, Japan to do your modeling. Ends up she gets there and it's a trafficking, it's a whole ring, sex ring going on. So that's our lying. And then our coercion is actually more of threatening someone. If you don't do this, so if Julie actually had a sister or family, they will threaten her and say, if you don't do this, we're going to hurt your family. So that's our force, fraud, coercion. Filling their needs. I feel like I addressed this when I said Hurricane Katrina. They will prey on people who need their needs met. Housing, drugs. They like the people, and I don't mean to sound happy about it, but people who are under the influence, who can't think straight, they'll go for them. Where? The top one is A number 1. And there is a plethora of information out there. Social media is the new tool that is out there, and they are getting their trafficked victims through there. The other ones, it's malls, coffee shops, schools, hotels, massage parlors, big sporting events. Here's some of the signs, you guys. This actually, like bruises, you can't just say, hey, yeah, that person's trafficked. Look for some of these other ones. Branding means actually the traffickers will put a brand on the back of their neck and say, I own you now. And then no eye contact. So there's, if you research this more, you'll find out that flight attendants, I know police knows about it. We are starting to learn in our country more about what are the signs. And the people in businesses know, hey, no eye contact. And they're timid and shy and they have their controller right next to them. So it'd be like me walking with someone and I can't look at anybody. I can't talk to anybody. So they're completely controlled. Now it's like, well, Alyson, what about the new clothes, hair, nails? There's a whole different, I don't want to go too much into it because I don't have that much time. People get trafficked by something called a Romeo pimp. And what that person does is they kind of groom them and tell them how beautiful they are. And I'm using a girl. And then they'll buy them things and say, oh, honey, Michelle, I love you so much. I'm going to give you all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, hey, Michelle, guess what? We need some money. Do you think you could sleep with my friend Jim? And we'll get some money. But she's got all this stuff. She's already down that path. It's scary when you start going into it. So this is one of my hot topics I'm passionate about. Awareness, educate, see it, say something. So I'll keep going. Went to a talk back in December, and Dave Mahoney, some of you might know him, former chief. He spoke to Human Trafficking. He's a public safety consultant now. These are some of the statistics that came out of that talk. Right now, there's 200 cases in Madison taking place that people have or had been trafficked, are being trafficked or had been trafficked. The places, massage parlors, and then strip clubs. Every single one of our counties has had or has a current human trafficking situation going on. We're not immune. We're not immune. This is evident. Human trafficking increased by 90% in the past 2 years. Why did it increase, you guys? Why did it increase? What went on in the last 2 years? The pandemic. We are going to be, we have residual from that, and we'll have it for years. And social media, like I said, is the largest trafficking tool. They lure them in. They pretend they're a 15, 16, 17-year-olds. Roger, I don't know if you could speak to that. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, let's go ahead and meet. And then bam, they end up getting trafficked. So prevention starts with you. This is it for human trafficking. These are different sites that you can go to. Knowing the signs, biggest thing. Raising that awareness in your head and knowing, gosh, you know what? I'm in Madison and maybe seeing some of the signs. I know when I used to present in the health in the classroom, kids started jumping in and going, Miss Schaefer, I got to tell you about TikTok. And I know TikTok's, it's crazy, but some of the things, the ways that traffickers lured people in, that's on TikTok. Tying a zip tie on the handle, car handle, or putting notes on the car. So they catch you when you're off, you know, you're not on guard, you're off guard or whatever. So these are definitely some resources. And you guys, I can talk to you afterwards too. So this is one that actually is like, whoa, pornography. How does this tie into everything? Remember, I'm talking about awareness, advocacy. This is huge, and it is the new drug. It is the new drug, and our generation is desensitized to some of this. So we got some older people in here, and you guys probably remember, maybe if your dad had those magazines, Penthouse, Playboy, they were magazines. Okay, it's completely changed now. They have the internet, so it's much worse. So I'll get into that. So it's printed or visual material, explicit description, sexual organs, activity intended to stimulate. You guys can read that. It is definitely the new drug. So statistics, my son was helping me with some of this, and he was sharing some of the sites. He doesn't go to them, but he's like, Mom, you wouldn't believe this, this, and this. So he was sharing some of these sites or some of these statistics, and I was just like, I cannot believe it. Kids, like most kids today, are exposed to porn by the age of 13. I know some who are exposed by the age of 5. 1 out of 8 porn titles describe acts of sexual violence. 1 in 3 porn videos show sexual violence or aggression. Top 3 sites. Since I've been talking, think about how long I've been talking, 10 minutes, 135,000 visits per minute. I suck at math, so I'm not gonna figure it out. That's what's going on. 28,000 users every second. Why am I talking? I'll tell you what, porn and human trafficking go together. Goes with mental health, goes with the drugs. I'm gonna keep going. What is the consequence of the porn? So it's the third most common form of sex trafficking, besides escort services and illicit massages. A lot of my information comes from one place, and I'll share it with you, that I just love. It's actually called Fight the New Drug. That top statistic is from the National Human Trafficking Hotline, though. The story of Jane Doe. Jane, actually, this is a real story from the Fight the New Drug. Real quick story. She's 22 years old. Jane got a fitness modeling job. And she was going to San Diego, and she was really excited because she gets to do her modeling. She gets off the plane, and there's a group of men waiting for her. They took her. This is where it gets nasty, you guys, sorry. They took her to their place of porn. It's called Girls Do Porn. No longer is this business running, but it did for 11 years and a lot of sex trafficking incidents. So they take her to this place with the camera. She was raped for 6 hours, and it was all recorded. 6 hours. And then it was put out on the porn site. She got away from that. She shared her story, but I'm just telling you, these go together. She was under the idea that she's gonna have this modeling job. We gotta keep raising that awareness, you guys. Why is it unlike anything we've seen? I already told you, the internet. You cannot unsee something that you've seen. If a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old goes by that computer and you have pornography up there and they see it, you can't take it away. Porn distorts the consumer's understanding of healthy sex. But why wouldn't it? You have all this pornography, sexual violence, degradation. So that is taking us down a path of, hey, we need to stop. This is an awesome site, Fight the New Drug. Of course, my son was like, you got to give them more resources. And I said, I love this one. They have articles. They are research and education based. They have articles about why porn is kind of changing the landscape for our young ones and how it hurts. There's decades of studies from institutions. This is a kicker. As porn becomes increasingly normalized, education on its harms becomes more important. We need to do something. And you guys are here, and you're going to be a voice. Let's keep moving. So I know I bop around. That's just my nature once in a while. I think some people know that in here. Mental health. Mental health, and I know it ties in with what Roger and Ryan spoke to, sorry. It's a condition that affects our mood, thinking, and behavior. Every single one of you has mental health. All of us do. Sometimes we fall, and we have to figure out how we're going to deal with those moments that we're depressed or we have anxiety. So mental health, 1 in 4 people suffer from mental illness. This we know why. Youth depression rates, they've gone up. Pandemic. We need people in our life. We need people in our life. And these kids were isolated. We got to help them come out. We're going to help them come out. We're going to be their safety net. 54, almost 55% of American adults with mental illness did not receive care. That's a whole different thing. They didn't have money. They didn't have insurance. That needs to change. 25% of adults living with serious mental illness, that means that it's affecting their life, their daily life. I had a man tell me yesterday, one of my neighbors, it's like his wife didn't even get out of bed 2 days in a row. She's dealing with depression. We need to change that. We need to help. We need to pull together. So contributing factors to our mental health, life experiences, biological factors, family history. What is that? Life experiences. You know what? Trauma. I've lost my mom and dad, one to Alzheimer's, one to dementia. You can't tell me that I don't have some type of depressive modes with some of that. Recognize, reach out. Here's some warning signs. Sad, harming oneself, out of control, risk-taking behavior, weight loss, seeing or hearing, believing things that aren't real, excessive use or alcohol, changes in mood, difficulty concentrating. I always think all of these, if something's changing in a loved one, then something is wrong. Something is wrong. So these are ways to take care of yourself. You are not alone. I have to get going faster. Roger talked about fentanyl. Fentanyl, this is a current statement. It's the single deadliest drug threat our nation has ever encountered. It's coming from China, not all of it. It's in a powder form, the cartel, but also in the United States, also here, they brand a pill, cut it with fentanyl, and then they sell it on the streets. I'm going fast. Overdose. Signs of overdose. I'll just tell you this. If they look like they're dying or passing away, flip them on their side. You call 911. If you have Narcan, which I was going to have, you administer. How long does a person have after the Narcan's administered to get to the hospital? What, honey? 2 minutes? 20. It's 15 minutes, or else they go into an overdose. I have a friend, her son actually 4 times overdosed before. Holy schnitz butt. Okay, sorry. Sorry, that would have been a high school thing. Here's the Narcan. And that's how I suggest everybody have Narcan. Doesn't even matter if you're using or not. Someone around you might be. And then I talk about substance abuse. I know I only have a little bit. We already know what substance abuse is. This hone in substance abuse and mental illness. They go together. A lot of times when people have anxiety, depression, they use the drugs. Oh man, I'm feeling anxious today. I just want a glass of wine, when it leads to another and another. So they go together. Here's some help. This is the last thing I'm gonna say. I like to be like a motivational type person. Be heard and make a difference. And thank you for coming here again, because you're educating yourself. And it starts with us raising awareness, advocating, collaborating, and sharing resources to build a healthy and safe community. We have to work together, you guys, because there's a lot going on. And I just gave you a lot, and thanks for listening. So questions? Anybody have any questions? Okay, sweetie, good to see you. Preguntas? That was pretty good. Did I blow you away or scare you off? I like to do real talk. And again, some people in here know that that's how I move and groove. And sometimes I edge it over. I love you. That's true. It's real talk. It's going on. So, all right. Here we go, love.
All right, thank you so much, Alyson, and to all of our presenters. If we could give them a big round of applause. Woohoo. I wanted to conclude today, we talked a lot about today. I'm so grateful for our presenters about kind of the state, exactly like what's happening right now, all the challenges we're facing. But I wanted everyone to know as well that the next piece of our wellness series is all about what are we doing in our community to really make a difference. And all of our presenters shared a little bit about that. But if you over here, I think some of you grabbed the flyers already, but next week we're bringing in Zach Gowan, who is a national speaker, and he's going to be speaking to our middle and high school students about making positive choices. It's right as we get ready for prom, and students are going to be going out there driving and probably exposed to some challenges that might happen on a prom weekend. So we're very excited for him to be here talking to our students. We're also doing a leadership training, a summit with selected students at the high school next week as well. Next Wednesday, we'll be back here at the library Wednesday evening, and we are having Tim Decora, a teacher from the high school, that's going to be talking about mental health. He spoke here once before and it was well received. We're very excited for him to come speak with us and talking about how do we overcome some of those things with mental health. The following week, which is actually next Saturday, is National Drug Take Back Day, and we'll be having, in collaboration with the police department, we have folks from all over the community bring in any of their narcotics, their drugs that they have at home that they want to expose of safely. So we take those. We have all sorts of lock boxes and things too over here that you might want to take home to protect your family and your loved ones. And then our last series in April is the Strong You, Strong Mind, Strong Body. It's the coalition teamed up with a pharmacy here in town, Hometown Pharmacy, and we put a program together for our students at the high school. And it was all about how do you make good choices around building a strong body, strong mind that will have impact on your success as an athlete or as a student. And we talk about, what are the challenges if you ingest certain substances and how that's going to affect your performance. So we're bringing that presentation here to the library so you can see what the students, it's all stuff that we all could use, but it's also that gives you a chance that you can talk with your students back at home to say, hey, I learned this as well. And then lastly, in May, we are doing Michelle Coleman, who I know Alyson talked a little bit about this, but we unfortunately lost her son, Cade Reddington, to a fentanyl overdose. He was a graduate here of Waunakee High School in his first year of college. Like I said, died of a fentanyl overdose. So she is going to be speaking to the students in assembly and also talking to the students about signs of an overdose. And we're having Narcan training for our students and staff that day as well at the high school. So education, like our presenters talked about, awareness, things that we can do to really keep everyone healthy and safe and resilient. That's what we're here to do. So I appreciate you all taking the time to be here today and encourage friends, family, neighbors, people you see in the pig, have them come to some of these events that we're having. And you can also watch them on the library and the coalition's website too. Any questions before we conclude? All right, well, thanks again to our speakers. Thanks to the library for having us. We will hopefully see you upcoming events.